Good morning, colleagues. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's very important for me to come and brief not only members of the media, but I think South Africans in general regarding the harsh reality that our education system is under immense financial pressure. It's no secret that in the recent weeks, several provincial departments of education have been vocal regarding the budget pressures that they are currently facing. And these pressures are not just a recent occurrence, but they have been years in the making due to aggressive budget cuts, economic stagnation, fiscal management across government, mismanagement across government, which is now affecting our frontline services. These budget pressures are not just numbers on spreadsheets, but they translate to fewer teachers, reduced textbooks, fewer admin support staff, which means that teachers spend more time on admin work, thereby reducing learning and teaching time. In essence, the very fabric of our children's future is now under threat if we continue in this current trajectory. In provinces like the Western Cape, we've already seen the decision to reduce the basket of teaching purse for 2025, a move that may result in fewer educators in classrooms. This may mean larger class sizes, reduced individual attention for learners, and ultimately a risk to the achievement of quality education outcomes. Unfortunately, the other provinces throughout the country are also in similar positions, which with many desperately trying to find ways to avoid having to top slice their budgets for key services like textbooks provisions, like admin support or scholar transport programs. The Deputy Minister and I have been in constant engagement with the provinces to support them during this challenging time. We have committed ourselves to doing everything we can to stabilize the system and have appealed to provinces to retain the basket of posts that they currently have in order for us to not affect the frontline services or compromise the education outcomes that we desperately want to improve. We must also appreciate the work that the provinces have done around the clock to help the sector stabilize and to get to grips with these challenges. I have witnessed MECs working tirelessly with their provincial departments to protect teaching and learning in our schools. We are faced with a pending national crisis, one that affects not just learners, but our teachers, our principals, and broader communities. It's crucial that we understand that this crisis is not confined to just one province or one aspect of the education sector, but it is wide-spreading. Provincial education departments will, in the next 2 to 3 years, find it increasingly difficult to fund their existing basket of posts and existing programs within their available budget, unless we take measures to proactively mitigate this risk. Let me make an example. For the 2025-2026 year, 4 provincial departments will battle to cover their budgets. For the 2026-2027 financial year, 5 provinces will battle to cover their budgets. For 2027 and 2028 financial year, 7 provinces will be unable to afford their budgets. So several provinces have preserved the same basket of posts for the past 3 academic years, despite the fact that learner numbers are increasing, while other provinces have decreased the purse in the past 3 years. It is important that when we're talking about the retention of posts or decreased posts, we mean that these have been cut in posts and not in warm bodies. So let me explain, meaning that no person or teacher is retrenched, but it means that often posts or vacancies that appear or that come into the system are then not filled. And this is an important distinction because often people are saying teachers are being retrenched. But ultimately, where there are vacancies, we must fill them in order for us to protect the system. Nationally, the number of learners within the education system have increased by approximately 292 300,000 over the last 5 years. That's almost 300,000 increase in learners that we've seen over the last 5 years. And so we're also seeing now, as a result, learner and educator ratios which are steadily increasing across the provinces. Now, it's important to retain a manageable learner and educator ratio, because that means that we are able to make sure that the quality of outcomes is looked after. Once your ratios are big and your class sizes are bigger, we are unable to guarantee that we will have the same amount of quality of outcomes that we need. So an increase in learner numbers without increasing the post basket may affect the quality of teaching, which will be reflected in the performance of the system. Largely, the financial constraints have had the largest impact on educator provisioning, leading to a steady increase in the learner and educator ratios, as I've indicated. Most provincial departments require between 350 million to 3.8 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework to fully fund their respective posts. So those are large numbers that we are saying, as a sector, we need this money over the medium-term expenditure framework in order for us to be able to fund educators in the system. If we continue down the path of regressing or underfunding the sector, the projections indicate that most provincial departments will not be able to maintain their respective basket of posts. To fully grasp why we are here, and more importantly how we got here, we must look back and acknowledge that as government we have not made the right decisions at the right time, which has brought us to this point. First and foremost, our economy has been stagnant for almost a decade. Growth rates have remained below 1% in real terms, which is far below what is needed to generate sufficient tax revenue to fund public services, including education. Without a growing economy, government revenues shrink, and when government revenues shrink, so do our budgets. So South Africa needs a robust, dynamic, and growing economy to generate the revenue that is required to fund public services like the education sector. We must adopt and implement economic policies that prioritize growth, and we must wholeheartedly support Operation Vulindlela, which aims to do just this. Moreover, our spending priorities need realignment in government. Between 2013 and 2023, the government spent 331 billion rand bailing out state-owned enterprises. This figure is staggering, especially when you consider the opportunity cost, because we could have funded our education sector, our healthcare sector, and economic infrastructure. Instead, this was funneled to SOEs at the tune of 331 billion. The other issue that has led us here is wasteful expenditure and corruption, which has hollowed out our state coffers. Between 2014 and 2023, South Africa has lost an estimated 1.5 trillion rand in economic value to corruption, money which again could have been used to build schools, pay teachers, improve learning conditions. Instead, it was used to line the pockets of a few. In addition to all of these things, over the past 15 years, our public sector salary increases have consistently outpaced inflation, with some years seeing an increase as high as 8 to 10%. While we must always make sure that we fairly compensate our public servants, these above inflation increases have rendered the public wage bill completely unaffordable and accounting for nearly 35% of government spending. So, colleagues, in response to the crisis that is facing particularly the education sector, I have convened 2 special meetings of the Council of Education Ministers. These meetings have brought together MECs from across the country, and we've conducted a thorough analysis of the budget challenges that each and every province faces. For the first time in a decade, we now have a clearer picture of where the most significant budget pressures are and how do we engage Treasury to try and buttress those. And so as a result, I have also requested an urgent meeting with the Minister of Finance to discuss the matter further. I am grateful to Minister Godongwana for his cooperation and support on this important matter. We are also grateful and appreciative to Treasury's willingness to engage with the education sector. Ultimately, a solution must be found in order for us to protect frontline services. In addition, I've also requested the convening of a political 10 by 10 meeting, which is a meeting that is co-chaired by the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Basic Education, the 10 provincial departments of education, and the 10 provincial treasury departments. Again, this is designed so that we can work together and find solutions. First, immediate solutions to try and salvage the situation, but also we need to look at longer-term solutions on how do we make sure that we protect the critical services that we need in our schools. And so, yes, the budget crisis right now may be the provisioning of posts, but believe you me, in no time it will start to encroach on goods and services. It will encroach on the provision of LTSM learning materials like textbooks. And so we've got to do everything in our power to protect frontline services as much as we can. On a longer term, well, we need to make sure that we are fixing the economy, which is critical for our education. Education is not just another expenditure, it's an investment in the country's future. So a well-educated population is the very foundation of a prosperous and innovative economy. Without it, we cannot hope to address the unemployment crisis or compete in the global economy. In the long term, we must prioritize the following. We must prioritize increased investment in education to receive a larger share of the national budget, ensuring that we have enough teachers, quality infrastructure, and adequate resources. We must also make sure that we focus on teacher development to make sure that we are upskilling our teachers. We must make sure that we are also investing in technology in education so that as we enter the digital age, our learners are not left behind. And we must invest in the appropriate infrastructure, eradicate unsafe infrastructure such as pit latrines. This is absolutely critical as we're prioritizing, because in a shrinking environment where we've got shrinking financial resources, we have to make sure that we are prioritizing. Ladies and gentlemen, our education system is the very bedrock of our nation's future. While we face significant challenges, these are not insurmountable. It's very important to remember that these are big challenges that are facing the sector, but they're not insurmountable. If we work together as government across the departments, we can find solutions. And that's why I'm appreciative of the Minister of Finance's willingness to engage us. I'm appreciative of the MSC's willingness to open the books so that we, as the team here at DBE, can have a thorough analysis of what it is that we are looking at. But I also want to thank our stakeholders, such as the teacher unions, that I have also sought to engage and update on where we are with this crisis. I would also like to also thank the ELRC for their cooperation and support always in this matter. And so as I conclude, it's important to note that yes, these are big challenges, but we have to find short-term solutions and longer-term solutions, and we can do so. But we have to make sure that whatever we do, we protect the frontline services, which is making sure that our teachers and our schools are looked after.